Islamabad is in lockdown right now. Military checkpoints on every road, a hotel evacuated. Pakistan is hosting the most important meeting since this war began. Iran's top leadership just landed. And in hours, they sit across from America's Vice President JD Vance. 6 weeks of war. Thousands dead. Oil prices through the roof. And it all comes down to what happens in one room in Pakistan today. But here's what every news channel is missing. The two sides in that room do not just disagree on the details. They disagree on everything. And if this meeting fails, there is no next step, no backup plan, no lower-level diplomat to try again. This is it. Stay with me. What you learn in the next 10 minutes will show you exactly what is on that table today, why the gap between Iran and America may be impossible to close, and what happens to oil prices, your energy bills, and the wider world if this diplomacy collapses. The delegations have arrived. The clock is running. Welcome back to War Room Economics. Hit subscribe right now and drop a comment below telling me where you are watching from. We read every single one. Now let me show you what is actually happening inside that room. Most people think this is a standard diplomatic meeting. Two sides talking. Compromise in the middle. Deal gets done. That is not what this is. What is happening in Islamabad today is unlike anything in modern diplomacy. And the reason it is so dangerous comes down to one decision both sides made before they even arrived. Let me explain. Iran did not send diplomats to test the water. Iran sent the people who make final decisions. Mohammad Ghalibaf is Iran's parliament speaker. Any deal needs parliamentary approval. His presence means Iran came ready to commit not just to talk. Abbas Araghchi is Iran's foreign minister. He has said publicly and repeatedly throughout this war that America must choose between a real ceasefire or continued war through Israel. He did not come to Islamabad to soften that position. Ali Akbar Ahmadian leads Iran's Supreme National Defense Council. He represents the military and intelligence services directly. His presence means the Iranian military authorized whatever happens in that room today. The central bank governor is also there. That tells you sanctions and money are on the agenda. A former Revolutionary Guard commander rounds out the team. This is not a group sent to explore possibilities. This is a group sent to either make a deal or walk away and let the world know why. On the American side, Vice President JD Vance leads the delegation. Vance reportedly opposed starting this war, but he supported Trump's decision. Now Trump has given him the job of ending it. If Vance succeeds today, he becomes the man who stopped a Middle East war. If he fails, it follows him for the rest of his political career. The personal pressure on him in that room is immense, and both sides bringing their absolute top people is exactly what makes this so dangerous. Because here is what nobody's explaining on television. When you start a negotiation at the very top, there's nowhere to go if it stalls. Normally, diplomacy has levels. Junior officials first, senior officials second, leaders last. Islamabad skipped every single level, and a former American ambassador explained exactly what that means. His words were simple and frightening. Former U.S. Ambassador Henry Ensher told Al Jazeera directly, "If this fails, it is hard to see what we and the Iranians do next. Think about what that means. There is no lower diplomat to try again. There is no next meeting between junior officials. There is no diplomatic ladder left to climb. If Vance and Ghalibaf cannot reach agreement in Islamabad, the only thing left on the table is military force." Pakistan's ambassador to the U.S. said the atmosphere in which talks happen matters enormously. And right now that atmosphere is poisoned. Iran says America already violated the ceasefire 3 times in the first 24 hours. Lebanon is still being bombed with over 300 killed since the ceasefire was supposed to begin. The Strait of Hormuz opened briefly after the ceasefire, then closed again hours later. Both sides walked into this meeting already accusing each other of bad faith. That is the starting point. And the actual demands each side brought to that table make the atmosphere look like the easy part. Because when you line up what Iran is demanding against what America is demanding, the word compromise disappears entirely. These are not two sides haggling over a price. These are two sides who want completely opposite futures. Let me show you exactly what each side put on the table this morning, and why one specific issue involving the Strait of Hormuz and tariffs could be the only way out. Iran arrived in Islamabad with 4 demands. Every single one is non-negotiable according to Iranian public statements. First, all American combat forces must withdraw from military bases across the Middle East region. Second, every sanction against Iran must be lifted. Third, Iran keeps permanent control over the Strait of Hormuz, the waterway that carries 21% of the world's daily oil supply. Fourth, 0 restrictions on Iran's uranium enrichment program. Iran's atomic energy chief stated it publicly the day before talks began. The enemy will not succeed in restricting Iran's enrichment program. That is not a negotiating position with flexibility. That is a public commitment. Iran cannot walk back without losing credibility at home. America's demands are equally firm. Complete verified shutdown of Iran's uranium enrichment program. Iranian withdrawal from proxy conflicts across Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and Iraq. Unrestricted shipping access through Hormuz with no Iranian conditions or coordination requirements. And JD Vance said publicly before flying to Islamabad that he will not be receptive if Iranians try to play us. On paper, these two sets of demands cannot coexist in any agreement. But behind the official positions, there's a quieter conversation about what a practical interim deal might look like. And it centers on tariffs and Hormuz access. The framework being quietly discussed involves Iran allowing unrestricted commercial tanker passage through Hormuz in exchange for America, lifting specific oil export sanctions in phases. Not full sanctions removal, not Iranian surrender of Hormuz. A structured arrangement where Iran proves compliance with open shipping and America proves good faith with phased sanctions, relief on targeted Iranian oil exports. On the trade side, the discussion involves reducing American tariff pressure on goods flowing through third-party countries connected to Iran in exchange for Iran reducing support to specific proxy forces in measurable, verifiable ways. Neither side gets everything. Both sides get something they can show their people. That is the only deal that has any chance of surviving the next 48 hours. But even that narrow path has one obstacle sitting directly in the middle of it. That obstacle is Lebanon. And the reason Lebanon could destroy everything in that Islamabad meeting room is that the three most important people in this entire process all have completely different answers to one simple question. Is Lebanon covered by the ceasefire? The mediator says yes. America says no. Israel says bombing Lebanon is part of the deal. And Iran is watching all three of them say three different things while Lebanese civilians are dying. Pakistan brokered this ceasefire. Pakistan's official position is that Lebanon is fully included in the agreement. That is what the mediator who brought both sides together believes the deal covers. President Trump said publicly that Lebanon is not included because of Hezbollah. He called continued Israeli strikes in Lebanon a separate skirmish completely outside the ceasefire terms. Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israeli strikes on Lebanon are part of the deal, not separate from it, authorized by it, one ceasefire, three completely different versions of what it covers. All three cannot be right. And while those three men disagree, Lebanon's health ministry has been counting casualties in the hundreds since the ceasefire was announced. Iran's foreign minister, Araghchi, has been direct throughout. America must choose between ceasefire or continued war via Israel. It cannot have both. 8 European nations saw the contradiction immediately. Germany, France, Italy, the United Kingdom, Denmark, Spain, the Netherlands, and Canada all issued a joint statement calling for ceasefire implementation, including in Lebanon. 8 of America's closest allies publicly correcting American ceasefire terms less than 24 hours after the announcement. When your own allies are contradicting your position before negotiations even begin, the diplomatic foundation is cracked before anyone sits down. And now every conversation in that Islamabad meeting room has Lebanon sitting underneath it like a fault line. Now here is the part that explains why Trump personally needs this meeting to succeed, regardless of what the military situation looks like. Because what is happening inside America right now to ordinary American families is creating political pressure that is changing Trump's calculations every single day. And the numbers that came out this week tell you exactly how much pressure he is under. New consumer price index data this week showed American inflation at 3.3%. The highest level in 2 years. Every price rise traces back to one cause. The war and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz driving energy costs through every sector of the economy. Senator Elizabeth Warren stated it directly. The American people are paying the price for Trump's war with Iran. Fuel costs are up, food costs are up, heating bills are up, and midterm elections are approaching. Trump launched this war with a specific assumption that Iranian government would collapse quickly, that Iranian people would rise up and demand new leadership, that America would be celebrating a swift, decisive victory within weeks. None of that happened. Iranian government is intact. Iranian military capabilities proved more sophisticated than pre-war intelligence estimated. American forces faced challenges nobody in Trump's inner circle had planned for. A former White House official told Al Jazeera that Trump surrounded himself with people hired for loyalty rather than expertise, people who were reluctant to challenge his assumptions or push back when the plan was not working. So what does Trump do next if Islamabad fails? His options are limited, and all of them are painful. Option 1, resume full military operations, higher intensity strikes, more resources committed, more American casualties, more inflation at home, more political damage before midterms. Option 2, accept a partial deal that leaves Iran's nuclear program partially intact. Politically very difficult to sell after promising total victory. Option 3, extend the ceasefire indefinitely without a deal. Managed ambiguity that satisfies nobody and leaves all the fundamental problems unresolved. Trump needs Vance to succeed today, not because the military situation demands it, but because the American economy and American voters are demanding it. That desperation is both his motivation and his vulnerability at the negotiating table. So with all of that context, let me show you the 3 specific scenarios for what happens in the next 48 hours. Because only one of these 3 outcomes leads anywhere close to stability. The other 2 make everything significantly worse. And based on everything we just walked through, the probability of each one is not what most analysts are telling you. Scenario 1, a partial deal gets done. Iran agrees to open Hormuz to unrestricted commercial shipping. America agrees to phase out sanctions on specific Iranian oil exports. Lebanon gets a separate temporary arrangement. Uranium enrichment gets frozen at current levels rather than eliminated. Both sides announce a framework and call it a historic step toward peace. Neither side got everything. Both sides got something to show their people. Probability low, but possible. The political space for this exists in theory. The problem is both sides have made public commitments they cannot easily walk back without losing domestic credibility. It would require significant political courage from both Trump and Iranian leadership simultaneously. Scenario 2. Talks collapse within 48 hours. Lebanon proves impossible to agree on. Iran's uranium demands are non-starters for America. The gap becomes publicly confirmed as unbridgeable. Ceasefire expires. Military operations resume. Both sides now better armed and better positioned than before the pause because they used the ceasefire window to rearm and reposition. The war resumes with greater intensity. Oil prices spike past $120. Inflation accelerates. Midterm damage for Trump becomes severe. Probability medium to high. The structural incompatibility is real and documented. Scenario 3. Talks drag on without conclusion. Neither breakthrough nor collapse. Ceasefire gets extended week by week. Lebanon remains unresolved. Hormuz partially open under Iranian conditions that change unpredictably. No formal deal, no formal failure. Just permanent managed instability with constant risk that one miscalculation anywhere in the region triggers full resumption of conflict. Probability, medium. This is what happens when both sides need talks to continue but cannot agree on what they are negotiating toward. Former Ambassador Encher's warning covers all 3. If diplomacy at this level fails, there is no ladder left to climb. Let me bring this together clearly. Islamabad is in lockdown. Iran sent its top decision makers. JD Vance is across the table representing an American president who needs this to work before midterm voters punish him for 3.3% inflation and rising energy bills. The gap between what Iran demands and what America will accept is enormous. Iran wants American forces out, sanctions lifted, Hormuz under permanent Iranian control, and 0 enrichment restrictions. America wants the nuclear program shut down, proxy forces withdrawn, and Hormuz open without conditions. Lebanon is still burning under 3 contradictory versions of what the ceasefire even covers. 8 European allies are publicly contradicting American terms. The only practical path forward is a phased Hormuz and sanctions arrangement with Lebanon getting a separate temporary freeze. But even that narrow path requires both sides to walk back public commitments their own populations are watching. Pakistan created this opportunity through remarkable diplomatic persistence. Whether Vance and Ghalibaf can close a gap this wide in 48 hours will determine whether 6 weeks of war ends at a negotiating table or becomes a pause before something far larger. The delegations are in the room. The clock is running, and the world is watching whether diplomacy can succeed where military force could not. What do you think? Can this deal get done, or did it fail before it started? Drop your answer in the comments below. Subscribe to War Room Economics for every update as Islamabad talks unfold in the next 48 hours. I will see you in the next one.